everybody, and welcome to the Row by Row Garden Show. We're glad that you're joining us this evening for our show. I'm Travis.
And I'm Greg.
And like I said, we're excited to have you with us this evening. We got a really good show planned. Got a lot of information coming this week on a new product that we just started carrying. We can't wait to share that information with y'all. But before we get into that, we're always going to do our show and tell segment and our tool of the week.
Yep.
And your snack of the week. What do you have there?
Well, I'm eating beets again, but I found out my pickled beets and the saltine crackers is really what makes them good. You know, I was watching Dr. Oz the other day. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of Dr. Oz, but he talked about the health benefits of beets. And we know any vegetable that's got a red color, purple color to it has a lot of antioxidants to it.
That's right.
And it's real good for you. So I've been eating me more big pickled beets with saltine crackers, and I would highly recommend that combination.
It's about time to get you another jar.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, those antioxidants are what eliminates those free radicals, which cause cancer and all kinds of stuff like that. You want to get rid of those free radicals, and the beets will definitely do it for you.
I wonder if beets works on zoomies.
I don't know.
We talked about zoomies the other day.
Yeah, you could try it. You could try it. Let us know how it works out for you.
I will.
All right. For our show and tell segment this week, we want to talk about a few things. So yesterday I dug some of my sweet potatoes just to check on them.
You got a little impatient, did you?
Well, just scratching around a little bit. So we planted. Went back on my phone. I use my phone as my record keeper, my date keeper.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of pictures out in my garden, and I go looking when that picture was taken. We planted sweet potatoes early to mid-June.
That's right.
And the plants we had was pretty sorry looking at the time because they were older. And I think that's going to slow it down. So if we went by right when we planted, it would have been we're coming up on 90 days.
I thought about that when I walked past mine this morning.
But I think it's going to, I was thinking I might harvest early October, but I believe I'm going to have to go to end of October.
Yeah, my vines are still growing good. I'm not interested in doing any kind of digging and plundering around right now with them. Like they are, and them ain't very big here, Trav.
No, these ain't very big. And I just want to show you, we still got at least another 30 days to go.
As long as your vine's looking good, let them roll.
Now you can eat them right there.
Yeah.
But we're gonna let them keep going for a little while longer. And I've been trying a new technique this year on mine. I got them on about a 4 or 5 foot row spacing, and I got them healed up real tall in the middle there, or where the row is. But in between there, I've been running through there with my tiller about once every 2 weeks to keep them vines on that hill instead of out in the middle. Because when you dig sweet potatoes, majority of your time is going to be spent clearing out them vines as opposed to the actual digging.
Right.
That way it keeps my vines in one spot, hopefully focus more energy into that hill. And we'll have our producer throw up a picture there to show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You said something earlier in the year. You was going to think about mowing yours.
I'm going to mow mine a couple of days, maybe a few days before I dig mine. I'm just going to take my lawnmower in there and raise it up and mow them off.
So my heel's too big. I couldn't get them.
Yeah, I didn't heel mine real big. And my strategy may not work out either, but I'm going to try it. So we will let you know.
We'll have 2 different strategies at play. We can see which one works the best. And I just healed my corn on Sunday. Put some Chilean nitrate down beside it and healed it up. Looking good. It's broke off dry here on us.
It has.
And I've been having to water that corn about every other day.
Show a picture there of my sunflowers. Ain't they looking good?
They are pretty.
A late crop of pro-cut sunflowers that did well for me.
Yeah. And things at the expo rolling. We about got everything planted at the expo with the exception of some Asian greens that are doing.
I got some issues down there. I just figured out this morning. You know, the other day you talked about our plants just wasn't taking the hold and they wasn't moving like we thought they ought to. And I noticed that too, and it's had me concerned. I've had some transplants, kale, cauliflower and stuff like that, transplanted for a couple of weeks. And you just feel like they were stunted. They wasn't growing, and we thought it was transplant shock. Well, I've been going early in the morning because I'm old and I like to get my work done early. But I went a little later this morning and I had figured out what my problem was. And I had been bragging because we ain't had much white fly pressure this year. But the white flies has got a hold of my stuff down there and it's stunted it. So I'm gonna go back this afternoon and take me a different approach, and I'm gonna aggravate them things some today. But I got down there this morning and it was more light, and plus I got down on my knees. Sometimes you have to get on your knees and look at this stuff pretty close. And I noticed my greens was really crinkled up, especially the new growth was crinkled up and it was cut inwards. Well, that was a red flag to me. I knew I had some problems. I got scouting around there and I got a lot worse whitefly problem than I thought I did. They're defoliating cotton down there and they're picking peanuts around. And I guess I got them all stirred up, and I'm gonna have to address that. So if you do have some issues like that, you may want to get down there and look at it real close and try to figure it out, because up to the day that had evaded me, I didn't know what my problem was.
I ain't seen any around my house much, but they ain't started defoliating or digging peanuts yet, so that could exactly be it. Tell them about the that new variety of mustard we're gonna try down there.
Well, we got a new variety of mustard called Savannah. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Called Savannah or Savannah, that we're going to trial at the expo down there.
We didn't get much of it.
We didn't get much of it. It's expensive stuff.
We got a
but it is
pound.
a hybrid, which you don't see a lot of hybrid mustard greens out there anymore. But we're going to trial this stuff, see how it works, and if it works as well as I think it does, yeah, maybe.
Now, is this a one-cut mustard, or you?
Yeah, this is one-cut mustard.
So we're gonna grow 2 little plots of that down there, and come see us at the expo, see how that turned out.
Yep.
All right, so now let's get into our tool of the week segment. And this tool of the week segment, as we try to always do, is kind of applicable to this time of year when we growing stuff for fall, putting in transplants out there. And if I can grab it back here.
Called a dibble wheel.
So this right here is our dibble wheel attachment. And so this is the same wheel that we use on our wheel hoe. Well, what they do is before they roll the wheel together, they punch these holes in there for us. And these holes are punched. This wheel has a circumference
of 15 inches.
No, that's a diameter.
Oh, I got my math all messed up, didn't I?
Has a circumference of right at 48 inches. So there's a hole every 4 inches along this wheel. 12 holes every 4 inches.
But now what I was saying from 15 to 15.
Yeah, that's the diameter, right?
Diameter, yeah.
Yeah, geometry lesson.
Geometry lesson, yeah.
And so this thing, we designed this thing with these dibbles just the right size to punch a hole to put in these transplants, like this pretty lacinato kale one right here. So it makes a perfect little hole, and you can just drop that baby in there. You about don't even have to touch it with your hands. You can just put your foot around it and it's good to go. Saves
you a lot of time. Now, it does work a little bit better if there's a little bit of moisture in your soil. On our sandy type soils, if there's a little moisture in your soil, to hold open that, once that thing punches down in there and that hole opening, it helps a little bit.
Yeah, I like to take my little wand and just wet it down before I do it. Now, what I'm excited to try this on is onions this year.
Oh, I did that last year. Yeah.
And I think it's going to work awesome for onions.
Yep.
And so you can put these dibbles out. You can change your spacing to whatever you want it to be. If you ain't using a dibble, you can take it off, or you can just put it on the inside there. This thing has a bracket, has a little axle back here, and a bracket that attaches to any of our wheel hoes, the single wheel hoe, the double wheel hoe, or the high arch. And you can get this, you can use one at a time, you can do 2 at a time, which is what I usually do because I do a lot of double rows, or you could do 3 at a time. We had a lettuce farmer up in Washington State. He was doing 3 rows 15 inches apart with his. So lots of flexibility here, but if you're putting in transplants, planting onions, I would say even maybe planting garlic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, probably so.
Would work awesome for that.
Saves you a lot of time. A lot of time.
Lots of time. And you don't have to get your tape out there, measure your spacing, and then your side by side row space is done for you as well. So this is a new attachment we just came out with this year, but been very popular and a lot of people like it. All right. Okay, so that was our tool of the week, and now we want to get into our main segment this week. Before we do, like I always want to mention, if you have any questions, put those in the comments, and we will get those answered for you on next week's show. We're going to answer some questions at the end of the show and give those people a set of these nice fancy garden markers here so you can label your all your greenhouse plants.
Yep.
All right, so on the end of last week's show, we told everybody to take a look on the website and see if they noticed anything new. And on our YouTube channel, we had quite a few people that caught it. So if you look on our website, right in the middle of the menu bar, there's a new section there that says cover crop seed.
Yep.
And cover crops is something we've been doing for many years now, and we kind of did some brainstorming in house which ones we wanted to carry, and we came upon 9 of them. We've got 5 cool weather cover crops and 4 warm weather cover crops. And so today we want to talk about just the benefits of cover crops in general, and then go through mainly these cool weather ones, because that's the ones folks are needing to be planting now.
Yeah, cover crops can be carried a complexion. There's several different reasons you may want to plant some or incorporate them into your rotation into your garden. Basically, you don't never want to leave bare dirt in your garden. You always want something growing in your garden, because if it's not what you want growing, then you're going to have some invasive weeds in there that you don't want. So you always want to keep something growing on your garden, and you can get some major benefits out of some of these cover crops. It takes a little planning, a little figuring out what you need to do. But you can do nitrogen fixation with your legumes, and we'll talk about that. You can do erosion control. You got something growing there, keep the wind and the rain from washing your good topsoil away.
And your nutrient leaching.
And your nutrient leaching. Weed suppression, we'll go over that in just a second. Organic matter, which is a huge one. If you start turning this biomass back in, it's huge to build your organic matter.
Grain manure.
Yeah, we're real particular about trying to keep our organic matter up. I love to keep mine up around 4 or 5%. But that's really challenging to do here in the South. Nematode suppression, which is a new thing with cover crops that we've just heard about in the last couple of years, because there's been some good bit of research done about that, and also breaking the pest cycles. So let's start out with number 1, nitrogen fixation. We pretty much, this is legumes when we talked about nitrogen fixation.
Right, so not all cover crops are going to fix nitrogen. As we talk about these today, we'll have some that are better at some things. Each one has its kind of own specialized use. When it comes to nitrogen fixation, what we're talking about is fixing atmospheric nitrogen and capturing it in that plant. So then when you go to incorporate that plant into the soil, that nitrogen is available for that following crop.
It's a fairly complex chain there where this happens, but basically what happens is you're capturing free nitrogen from the atmosphere. You have these lightning storms and stuff that comes through, and you can capture some of that nitrogen with these legumes. Now, the legumes that we offer, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be your clovers, your vetches, sun hemp's not, is it?
Yeah, sun hemp is actually one of the only warm season cover crops out there that is a nitrogen.
So we got clover, we got winter peas,
vetch,
hairy vetch, and sun hemp. So those are the 5, did I say 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's close anyway. Those are the legumes that we offer. Also, the legumes can be used to help with your pollinators, because your clovers and things like that, bees love them.
Right.
Vetch too, actually. So they're good for pollinators, and they're good for nitrogen fixation. The downside is they're normally a little bit slower to grow than some of the other crops, with the exception of the peas.
To talk about the erosion control and the weed suppression in a minute. So, like you were alluding to earlier, if you're growing, you've got fall crops in your garden right now, that's great. If you're not growing for fall, or you won't be growing anything later this fall and winter, don't let your garden area just grow up with grass.
Yep.
Because then all you're doing is fighting that weed seed bank year after year after year. Put you a cover crop down there. It's going to build your soil way better than that invasive grass will. And then you won't, your weed problem or your weed pressure won't be as bad. These cover crops, especially ones like clover, vetch is another one, going to provide a solid mat over that soil. You know, keep any new weeds from germinating and basically outcompete anything little there.
Okay, so let's talk about winter cover crops. Okay, let's talk about what you need to be doing now. We are in zone 8, so the ideal time to plant your winter cover crops in zone 8 is October 1 through October 15. Now that's not saying you can't plant them outside of that window, but that is the ideal optimal time to plant any kind of cover crop. So think about that as you're planting into your fall system there.
You want to give them time to get up before you go. A lot of them will do what they call winter kill, so that you have a hard frost or something other. It's going to knock them back a little bit. They'll still be good and they'll start back growing in spring, but you want to give them time to establish and cover the ground before any really cold temperatures.
Yeah, also that date period between October 1st and 15th is the ideal daylight length of days for optimal germination for your seed. So it's perfect there to get that good germination. You'll get better germination during that period than you will any other time. If don't stress out if you can't meet that window, just do the best you can.
That's when I plant carrots as well, because of that time window. Let's go over some of these cool weather cover crops we got and take a look at them, and kind of talk about what's the pluses of each one. So the first one we're going to talk about, and this one I grew last year, is this crimson clover. Now this is a coated clover seed. And if you don't know much about clover, you always want to get this coated seed. It's a heck of a lot easier.
It's the only one we offer. If you've ever tried to put the powdery inoculant on a raw clover seed, it can be aggravating. So we don't go that route. And we found some that was coated with inoculant already on the seed. It makes life a lot simpler.
This clover and a lot of these cover crops can be planted with the cedar.
Yep.
Now it's going to take you a little longer to do that than to broadcast it. What I like to do is I like to broadcast it, and I take that little disc harrow on the wheel hoe and kind of cover it up a little bit. But you got your clover here. Clover is a really good nitrogen fixer. It's going to add a lot of nitrogen. It's going to give you a lot of good ground cover.
And if you're into bees, the bees love it.
And if you got chickens, you can turn in on it. Chickens love this stuff as well. So clover, the crimson clover is the one we have. And then let's get into the second one here. And this is for all y'all folks out there that are always complaining about your clay soils. Your soils are too hard. They don't drain good. You can't hardly work in them. So this is what we call tillage radish. And this is the daikon radish. And we've talked about this on some of our questions we've answered. So what this is it almost looks like a carrot. These radishes here can get down in those deep soils. They create these air pockets, going to allow it to drain better, also break up that hard pan, and these things are going to do wonders for softening your hard soil.
Yeah, I've grown them in my garden several times before. Another thing about these, they're easy to get rid of. So when it comes time to turn them back in, you can get in there and with your little hair and hair it up, cut it up a bit, and they decompose real quick. So that's probably one of the easiest cover crops to get rid of there.
Yeah, so here, as opposed to some of the other ones where you're dealing with a lot of green material, you're not dealing with as much green material here. It's more that root mass that you got. And like he said, once you cut those up with a tiller or harrow, they break down in no time. So that's tillage radish. And one more thing to mention about this. These things, besides aeration and improving drainage and making the soil softer, what they'll do is, because they run so deep, they'll pull up nutrients from down deep in their soil that otherwise wouldn't have never been accessible to your plant. So they bring those nutrients from the deep to the soil surface. Back up to the soil column. That's right.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah. All right, and then the next one, winter cover crop, you should be thinking about planting, are these winter peas here. And these are what we call Austrian winter peas. And this is probably the biggest cover crop seed we got. These right here would plant in the cedar like a dream.
Yeah, we're not big into planting food plots for deer, but this is the ideal one right there for if you got some livestock you want to plant a food plot for. On the winter cover crops, this is going to be the fastest growing one out of the bunch.
The fastest growing one, and of the ones we got, this one is going to fix more nitrogen than any of them. This is an extremely abundant nitrogen fixer. In some studies I've seen up to 300 pounds an acre, which is a heap of nitrogen. This is also going to be good for grazing, like you said, with the food plots for deer or food plots for your livestock. Any time with these cover crops, if you've got livestock, you can turn in on there and then add manure on top of that cover crop. It's going to be a plus. So winter peas are a good one. These things are, they're going to kind of vine out on you and cover the ground. They're going to look a little different than, say, your radish or your clover will. Now the next one here we've got, which is one that's very popular with the commercial farmers around here that do no-till cotton and stuff like that, is winter rye. And this is the only one of all 9 we carry that you really can't plant with the seeder.
Broadcast it, rake it in, or hair it in, whatever. You want to put it fairly thick out there. This particular one has some, if you plant that, it will help some of the disease in your soil. So if you have a lot of problems with disease in your soils, this will help clear some of that up.
As far as erosion control goes and really keeping the water, the rainfall in where it lands, this winter rye is really good for that. It's going to provide a nice thick mat on the soil. The roots don't go very deep, but they have a really strong network, and they're going to retain that water and retain those nutrients, keep them from running off your property. Another thing you can do with this winter rye, instead of cutting it and tilling it in, you can crimp this stuff or roll it, and it'll provide another kind of mat. That's the big farmers use it for pigweed suppression. So you don't have to cut and till this in. You can crimp it and roll it, and then plant into that if you like. And then the last winter one we've got here, the seed kind of looks like a small piece. It kind of looks like an okra seed, don't it? It's called hairy vetch, and this one right here has a similar plant structure to the peas. It vines out too, but the plants look a little different.
It's a nitrogen fixation. It is a legume.
And this, I know a lot of people will make kind of cover crop cocktails.
We're going to talk about that in just a second. Now this particular one right here reseeds really well. So if you have an area there that you want to plant a cover crop in and you want to let it naturally reseed, this is one of the ones I would recommend, because this one has a huge population of seed pods underneath that leaves, and this one comes back really good.
Yeah, this one is supposed to be excellent for grazing as well. It's going to fix a lot of nitrogen, all those good things, provide a lot of ground cover as well.
Pollinators as well. Those bees and pollinators love the blooms on hairy vetch. And let's talk about combinations that you was alluding to just a minute ago. The combinations that I would like, that I plant on these kind of things, is hairy vetch and rye.
Okay, you can make a cocktail.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because this right here is kind of viney. It doesn't have a real strong support, so it's going to run up on something. So if you give it some rye to run up on, this is a great combination to plant together there. Also, this one with the winter peas would be a good combination.
Right.
So any of these two would be great right there as far as combination. That and the hairy vetch or the winter rye with the winter pea.
And we don't sell the mixes. You have to mix them on your own, but that'd be easy.
I'd highly recommend that. If you're going to plant either one of those, I'd put me a little winter rye in there with them.
Make you a little cocktail there.
Yep.
All right. So those are the winter ones. Those are the ones you should be planting, starting to think about planting now in the colder climates, you know, October if you're a little warmer. And we sell all these. We've got them in 5-pound bags. Show them the bag.
Yep.
We got them in 10-pound bags, and then we've even got 50-pound bags if you need that much.
This is the winter pea right here.
That's a 10-pound bag.
Yeah, there's a lot of peas in there.
And we've got most of this stuff seeds at the rate of anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet.
We got all that information on our website, on the product pages there. So go there and have a look around, figure out how much you need for the size garden you got, and make sure you implement this into your rotation.
That's right. And just briefly, we won't dwell on it too long. Just want to show them the summer cover crops we do have.
Yeah, come next spring, we'll go over these a lot more in detail.
So these are going to be ideal for between your spring and fall planting, keeping something out there. So we've got brown top millet, and we've done some videos on that and showed a flail mower with that. That's lots of green manure you get out of that.
Yeah, a lot of biomass.
Lots of biomass.
Now you'll seem to get a lot more biomass out of these summer cover crops than you do these winter cover crops. It's simply they grow differently. So the biomass is going to come more from the summer ones.
The second one we have for the warm weather is this one called sun hemp, and this one is not as well known as some of the other ones, but is becoming extremely popular because it has a lot of pest and disease suppression qualities, and it's the only summer cover crop I know of that's a legume and nitrogen fixer. So this one works awesome. Then we have our buckwheat, which we've grown before. Buckwheat is one of the fastest growing ones out there. If you need to keep some pigweed and some other terrible weeds from coming up, these things can outrace them.
Buckwheat will outgrow pigweed, believe it or not. So you can plant that in there and it'll crowd it out. One little thing about buckwheat and a lot of these warm weather cover crops is you want to cut them in at bloom stage before they start putting on a seed pod. Because some of these buckwheats and things like that can be invasive if you let them go to seed. So you don't want these to go to seed. You want to cut them in, get them back into the soil, get that biomass in there when they start to bloom.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, once they bloom, you've got about a week or so before they start making seed. So once they bloom, you know to go ahead and cut them. And then the last summer one we have here is one called Sorghum Sudan grass. And this one here is really good for suppressing nematodes. It looks kind of like corn when you grow it, but it obviously don't make an ear. Lots of biomass. Really good one.
Probably puts out the most biomass of any of the summer cover crops that we sell, I'm assuming. Probably.
Right, yeah. This one really popular with the market farmers. Really good one here. Nice round seed. You could plant that with a seeder, no problem. All right, so go on our website. Check out all those cover crops. Get your cover crops for this fall. Keep your garden, something growing in it. Don't let it grow up with grass and weeds. Keep something in there. And you'll mow that down, till it in spring, and more you'll be really happy with the way your garden goes.
All right, let's get to some questions here.
All right, so our first question this week, and if we answer your question, like I said, send us your email to this, cusserve@hosstools.com. We'll get your garden labels out to you. First question is from Warrior River, and he wants to know, can he use blood meal on his cabbage for a nitrogen source?
Yeah, we had a show a couple weeks ago. We was talking about nitrogen and organic versus conventional, and you can use blood meal. I've used it years ago in the landscape situation. I haven't used none in the last few years, but it is a fast-acting organic nitrogen source. It normally runs about 13%, so it's a 1300. Just has nitrogen in it. It is took from the slaughterhouses where they kill pigs and cattle, and they dry this blood meal, and it is a fast-acting organic nitrogen source that you can use for nitrogen-loving plants such as cabbage, broccoli, corn, and all that kind of stuff. Now, a couple of things that I did read about is you have to be a little bit careful with it. Since it is so fast when you're seedlings or you just have your plants coming up, you have to be careful with it, or you can get some burn. And I don't know what it is about it, but there's something to me, is I wouldn't want to apply this within the last 2 or 3 weeks of harvest. I would want to, if I was going to use it, I wouldn't use it in that last few weeks because I would want it to degrade before I harvested my crop. There's just something about that dried blood meal that I'd want it to decompose and not want it on my vegetables when I got ready to eat it.
So it's able to break down the nitrogen to available form quicker than most
yeah, quicker than a lot of. I still think it probably works a lot better than warm weather than it does cool weather because that's just normal. Microbes are not near as active in cool weather's there and hot weather, but it would be a great source. I have not used a lot of it. I had to do a little research on it because I had to familiarize myself with it. I have used bone meal in the past in some situations, and I have used blood meal. It's just been a while.
Hey, if it was me and I needed a nitrogen source on cabbage, I'd put some Chilean nitrate on it and heat it hard.
Yep, I would too. I would just feel a little bit safer using Chilean nitrate than I would blood meal. But that's not saying blood meal won't work. It will. Right.
All right, and then our second question this week comes from M. Feimel, if I'm pronouncing that right. And he's, we were talking about butter beans last week. He wants to know, are the baby butter beans just regular butter beans that are picked early? If you think about it this way, so you got your butter bean pot, and if you've ever picked one early when they're just kind of flat and not filled out, the butter beans are not, if you pick them small, they're not going to be full. They're just flat and they're not going to really do anything. So from what I understand, the baby ones are varieties that are bred to be small or smaller, and then they fill out and you pick them just like they do.
Yeah, this was a new one to me. I did a little research on it, but I did not know the answer.
The Henderson bush bean, or the Henderson lima bean,
which is the standby,
which is kind of the standard. They make a baby variety of that, and that's, I don't know anybody Never really talked to any gardeners or homesteaders that grow baby lima beans, but I'm sure they're commercially grown somewhere. For,
yeah, it's not saying you couldn't.
Industry.
Yeah.
All right, so thank y'all for those questions, and I hope you enjoyed this week's show with all the good information on cover crops, and we will see you guys next week.
Take care.